name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. We received a directive from the Metropolitan a couple of weeks ago, and I apologize to anybody who may feel the lack, but I don't know that we have Tropariet to St. Tikhon available. However, the directive was to commemorate, as part of the 100th anniversary of St. Tikhon's death, which is tomorrow, and it's part of the year of 100th anniversary of commemorating him and all the new martyrs. The directive is to give an appropriate sermon, and so I'll do something that's close to my best. He did pass away, the patriarch, on Annunciation 100 years ago tomorrow. He was born in the 1860s. He was a very, very young seminarian, and then archimandrite, priest one. And a very young bishop shortly afterwards. And many of us know him, we know of him, because he was so instrumental in America. The name of the jurisdiction when he was given it was Alaska and the Aleutians. That was the name of the whole jurisdiction that covered all of North America. Because that's where the Russians landed, who they first enlightened amongst what would become the United States. I didn't do very extensive research, but in the little that I did, it seems that the patriarch became a naturalized citizen of this country. And he was so well known that his name appears on the Anglican and Episcopalian calendars for April 7th. It says Tikhon, Ecumenist. I looked up the calendar, that's what it says. Well, why did they call him that? Why do they call him that? And we don't, to us that's somewhat of a dirty word. And it's because he went out of his way to be neighborly. And there's a wonderful photograph of him having attended, not celebrated, but attended the consecration and enthronement of an Episcopalian bishop. And there he is in his black hat and with a couple of other priests attending as well. That was 100 years ago, more than 100. That picture is from 1912 or 13 or something like that. And so he was very well known. He's well known by all the American Orthodox, certainly. There's many on the East Coast here that travel to his to the monastery and seminary named after him / his patron saint, St. Tikhon of Zodonsk. But in the gospel today, we heard something that I thought fit very well with his life. Those who would be the chiefest must be the servant of all. And if there's a principle that defines his life, that must be it. He became a bishop and then the Metropolitan of Moscow, and then the patriarch, the first patriarch in something like 200 years. And he was elected patriarch on the eve of really actually after the Bolsheviks had already achieved victory. But before, but just as the vicious civil war was about to begin. And he had one of the hardest jobs as a bishop. I can't even come close to imagining the difficulty that he found himself in, trying to hold together the Russian people while they were splitting themselves apart at every seam, trying to protect the lives and souls of his faithful, urging people not to engage in political rhetoric. And of course, this is in a part of the world that had never known anything like free speech, so it was important for him to do that because it would cost the lives of his parishioners if some of his priests were indiscreet about their rhetoric. And through it all, a letter was released with his name on it in which he proclaimed loyalty to the Soviet Union. Later textual analysis has looked at that and said that it seems like possibly a product of the KGB. But nonetheless, even though that letter was publicized and came out, still he was trusted by all of the faithful because of the reputation that he had built up for himself as being a tireless servant of all. And he was commemorated, he was glorified as a confessor, passion bearer. He's considered one of the new martyrs. Though he was not violently killed himself, he may well have been poisoned, a favorite assassination method of the KGB and their successors. But he returned to Russia voluntarily. He could have stayed in America. He chose to go back, and finding himself elected, with a method by which the patriarch was elected, is that 3 names are elected, and then they're put into a box in front of an icon of the Mother of God. And in the morning, a servant came and opened the box and picked one name from it. And that was his name. Having found himself in that position, he took it on with the spirit of a servant. There's so many things we can look to him for an example. Service and neighborliness, love, those are among them. And having gone back to Russia, being enthroned as patriarch, immediately he began to be persecuted, and he had to preside over a church in which was being infiltrated by the KGB, which was being split apart as the living church, in which his parishioners were being dragged out of their homes in the middle of the night, in which his priests were being shot by the thousand. And in the midst of that, he had an unbreakable reputation, untarnishable. This is probably why the Soviets realized they couldn't just kill him outright. But whatever the method and whatever the reason, he did fall ill and was admitted to a hospital weeks before his death, and he would get out to serve services. And finally, on the night of his death, Annunciation, April 7th, March 25th, he had gone to sleep for a while. He woke up, and giving us his final example, blessed example, he woke up and he asked what time it was, and he was told that it was 11:45 p.m. And he began to cross himself, and then with each sign of the cross, he said, "Glory to thee, O God, glory to thee." And he did not he finished 2 iterations of his cross, and as he was beginning his 3rd, he passed away and completed it in heaven. This man is a man to whom, among some others, everyone in this building owes their knowledge of orthodoxy. Everyone owes to him. Every Orthodox person in North America, whether they are OCA or Road Corps or Moscow Patriarchate, every Russian Orthodox person in America bears some ecclesiastical kinship, and he is our spiritual father for all of Russian Orthodoxy. So he was also known as a great church builder, and again, a great neighbor to those of any faith or none. So there are so many things for us to take from him as lessons, but we should focus, those of us in Holy Apostles, on his service, his rectitude, moral, spiritual rectitude, and his tireless church building. So those of us, please, in your heart today, ask Patriarch Tikhon for his intercessions, and I can't think of a more blessed day to pass away than the Annunciation. So as we celebrate the Annunciation tomorrow, let's try to recall to ourselves the knowledge of the life of Patriarch Tikhon, our connection to him, and sincerely beg him for his intercessions, that he might beg the Lord to build our church for us. Amen. Amen. Blessing the Lord.